Good morning, delegates. Let me try that again. Good morning, delegates.
Good morning.
I hope you all rested well. I hope you enjoyed your supper. I hope you enjoyed the evening. I'm happy to welcome you to day 4. We had a lot of learning yesterday. There was so much information, so many fantastic topics. And I hope you are looking forward to today as much as I am. But for now, I'm happy to welcome you, allow you to get settled, and invite one of our team, Ms. Janet Mataka, to kindly come and give us a quick recap of yesterday so that we can see how we flow into today's topics. I hope all of you were able to confirm, especially for the excursion tomorrow. I hope you've also been able to confirm your flight schedule and your transportation to the airport. And for those of you who wish to stay, you're still welcome to change your flights. I would like to think that Uganda is one of the most beautiful places to be in, and we are always happy to have visitors stay longer. So let me hand over to Janet to give us a quick review yesterday. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Yesterday started with a recap on what had transpired on Monday, which was our second day of the conference, and was presented by Mr. Draku from the Secretariat. Then we had a presentation on topic 4, where among others, the presenter, Ms. Mataka, reminded conference delegates that debt is a concern for the continent, as most countries on the continent are vulnerable. She highlighted some of the frameworks used in analysis of public debt and encouraged the PBOs to support their parliaments monitor public debt to ensure its sustainability, among others. The panelist, Mr. Mohammed, shared Ghana's public debt experience, highlighting the need to pay attention to the country's debt profile, and shared their experience on restructuring Ghana's public debt, including the haircuts they faced, and implored PBOs to learn from them, among others. The plenary complimented the presentations and, among others, emphasized the need for us to focus on public debt and fiscal sustainability, and the need to shift focus from just annual plans to long-term planning, and also develop our own solutions and tools so we are not under colonization. We proceeded to topic 7, presented by Ms. Margaret of UNICEF, who started her presentation with a question on whether budgetary allocations are informed by good evidence, noting that parliamentary budget officers are in the best position to provide reliable information to their legislatures. She implored PBOs to ensure their information is accessible in a timely manner and understandable, emphasizing that PBOs must communicate what they are doing effectively. She reminded delegates that as UNICEF, they are pushing on issues of climate change and its impact on children, and called for better technical support within PBOs to support drafting of national plans to cater for the needs and rights of children. The panelist, Ms. Gondo, among others, recognized the importance of capacity building of Parliament staff, which will in turn be passed on to their clients, who are the legislators. Given the volatility of MPs, she informed delegates that her organization believes in fiscal transparency, public participation in decision-making, and governments being held accountable for public resource expenditure, and as an organization, they had capacity building initiatives. She urged PBOs to diversify their skill set in order to reach their audiences, emphasized the use of an evidence-based approach to disseminate budget information, because their products are not only consumed by MPs, but citizens too. The plenary complemented the presentations and, among others, emphasized the need for PBOs to ensure that their briefs are easily readable, give clear information, and that good visualization of information is a powerful way to communicate effectively. We had topic 6 presented by Mr. Kigundu, whose presentation focused on the different methodologies applied in the conduct of fiscal sustainability analysis to assess the realism of fiscal deficit targets. Among others, he highlighted how PBOs support parliamentary oversight on government spending, on climate change initiatives, ensuring transparency, accountability, and effective allocation of financial resources. He further highlighted their specific roles in regard to budget analysis, framework and its benefits, among others. The plenary session supported what had been presented. Then after lunch, we moved to topic 9, presented by Dr. Masinde, who noted that all forms of communication are intended for a certain audience. Therefore, in a bid for PBOs to communicate their products to the intended audience, they should endeavor to define and convey economic ideas clearly for the non-specialists. He also reminded delegates that improving budget communication requires more analysis, readability of the document, clear language, reduced density, and elimination of unnecessary details. He encouraged PBOs to develop a professional production by building a team, having a professional editing process, and conducting proofreading, among others. Further, he reminded delegates of the need to ensure that PBO products are based on facts that should speak for themselves, since they do not speak to the media. Panelists were in agreement with the presenter, though they made some additions. For example, Ms. Sangwani added that PBOs should package their products in the best way possible, with presentations having a blend of graphics to present the story in simple terms, and ensuring their reports have an executive summary. Mr. Chilambwe shared the Zambian experience, highlighting how they use the Parliament TV and radio station to disseminate the PBO products, among others. And the plenary sessions were in agreement with whatever had been said. We moved to topic 10, presented by Mr. Katesh, who explored the best ways to deepen the development partnership of PBO, the executive and media, and other think tanks for information sharing without compromising the independence of PBOs. He observed, among others, that operational independence of PBOs is paramount. The media is key in dissemination of PBO things, and in the process, enhance public debate on the budget. He implored PBOs to enhance the use of social media through the Parliament Media Department for dissemination of its information, and encourage the use of fact-based media reports to identify areas that PBOs may research on, among others. On managing risks, he cautioned that relationships with media come with risks that have to be managed, since media have a wider reach. The panelist, Mr. Labaran, highlighted the Nigerian experience, among others, 11 was presented by Dr. Mariam, who discussed mechanisms ICT. She reminded delegates that public access to information is important, so they should put in place a feedback mechanism. She informed delegates that the traditional mediums for public participation in the budget process are still relevant because they reach the citizens much more easily. And the mechanisms include the community engagement forums, the traditional and social media, the town hall meetings, among others. Further, she highlighted challenges of ICT, including limited ICT literacy, limited internet penetration, cultural and socio-economic factors like education levels, social status, among others. The panelists complemented her presentation with Ms. Nafisatu sharing the Gambian experience that has limited engagement with citizens on the budget, and indicated that there is mixed use of traditional and ICT-related mediums of citizen participation due to high literacy and poverty levels. She noted that much as ICT is desired, Africa is marginalized. We have limited ICT coverage and different languages on the continent, causing language barrier. So for the moment, we still have to use the traditional methods. Mr. Mwekwase shared the Ugandan experience, highlighting that Uganda gives citizens space to participate in the budget process through invitation to committee sittings, national media, live telecasts, and oversight engagements. He proposed that mechanisms such as interactive budget simulators, open data platforms, interactive voice response, and local media sessions are viable for improving public participation. Mr. Abdi Fattah highlighted that in Somalia, for every bill to be passed, you're supposed to consult the public, but it's not actually being done, despite having no language barrier. So sometimes public participation is done, but not meaningful, due to lack of information to the public and participation fatigue. The public has different interests during the budget process. Therefore, it is hard to get credible responses during public participation, among others. The plenary session was in agreement and emphasized the need to define public participation. Our moderator, Mr. Peter Odeke, then closed the day after excellently moderating through all sessions. Please join me, appreciate him with a hand of applause.
I am sure that last bit was not supposed to be there. Maybe she's bribing me, but whatever it is that she wants me to do, I will not do. So, delegates, I really thank you. I appreciate your appreciation, and I'm looking forward to having an engaging day today, not only here, but also at the dinner later. So we shall try and ensure that we finish the entire session in time for lunch so that we can have a fairly relaxed afternoon and allow for delegates to go back to their hotels and change and come back for the evening session starting at 6 p.m. So the next thematic area that we have is budget approval and oversight for inclusive and sustainable development. And we are honored to have none other than Mr. Edison Odhiambo, fiscal analyst from Kenya, who is taking us through a presentation on Africa's social and economic development challenges and opportunities, role of the budget. Mr. Odhiambo, I hope you can do it within 20 minutes.
I think we should just proceed because presentation is not necessarily PowerPoint, isn't it? Good morning once again, dear delegates. My name is Edison Odhiambo from Kenya. I'm here to make a presentation on how we can use the budget process to address some of our challenges we have in this continent. My presentation basically will dwell around how we use planning, then eventually to budget, and how they translate to now, how we address those problems through sound policies and planning methods so that we achieve the desired results. My presentation was to start by just giving a snapshot of some of the developmental challenges we have in Kenya. Just like the rest of the continent, we've got problems of poverty, which since the days of our founding fathers, when we got independence in 1963, one of the problems they were to fight was poverty, illiteracy, diseases, amongst other things. So that is still a challenge, and we'll see how then we use that. We use the budget process to address that. Another development challenge we experience in Kenya relates then to issues of inequality. By inequality, I mean in terms of regional development. Some regions tend to be marginalized. Then how do you use then the budget to address their issues? Again, yesterday, Janet here talked about issues of the debt burden and fiscal challenges, which I need not to belabor. You saw where Kenya is. We've got issues related to inadequate infrastructure deficits, such as energy. We tend to have high cost of energy, which impacts again on other sectors like manufacturing. We have again a lot of power outages in Kenya, for example. Then that makes it very difficult for us to achieve some of the development goals we desire. Therefore, we need then to see how we use our budget to address those issues. I wanted also to say that in Kenya, another big challenge is accessibility, perhaps to health services. Kenya has a population of 50 million. One of the critical components of addressing healthcare challenges relates to personnel. In Kenya, I checked, we've got around 10,000 doctors who are registered. That means not more than 10,000 people can practice medicine in Kenya. We've got a population of 50 million. Then that basically means for every 5,000 citizens, it's only one doctor serving them. The required ratio perhaps should be one doctor serving around 1,000. So that's also a challenge in Kenya. When it comes to education, the challenge has been, we dealt with the issue of universal education by giving free primary education, but moving forward, we started dealing with the issues of transition to secondary schools, but the challenge now is how do we deal with now transition to tertiary? That is where most people now drop out and are not in a position to access tertiary training after having gone to schools in both in primary and secondary. Therefore, in Kenya, the budget centers around planning. The law in Kenya requires that when you do a budget, then you have to plan first. Whatever you are budgeting for must be planned. But they have gone too far without the presentation. I don't know whether it's still coming or I still proceed, because what's your feeling? I proceed. Okay. Now, in Kenya, we've got, okay, before I go there, I wanted also to address that as a continent, we've got opportunities that have presented themselves. That's why if you look at the Agenda 2063, we need to take advantage, for example, of the momentum in growth of our economies. The African Development Bank, I saw the outlook, they were saying out of the 20 fastest growing economies in 2024, 11 of them will be from Africa. I looked at Niger is projected to grow at around 11.2, the highest in the world, I mean, in this continent. I saw other countries like Ethiopia, 7%, Tanzania, 6.2%, Rwanda, 7.2%, Uganda, 6%. So we need to utilize that momentum so that we address our developmental challenges. Again, the rise of BRICS, again, which was eloquently presented by Nigeria here, the BRICS present as opportunity then to grow our economies in terms of, given that the South-South cooperation we have with them, they've become even some of our greatest trading partners, surpassing our traditional partners like Europe and the United States of America. Now, we need to see then, with that growth in countries like China, India, we need to utilize that opportunity so that we move forward as a continent. No, this is not the presentation. This is not the one, and this one. Yes.
Just a second. My light's coming. Okay.
Should be slideshow. No, but why is it not as in? I need to remove this. Oh, yeah, you're right. There. Now, actually, I was on this particular slide. I just explained the significant positive and sustained growth trajectory in African countries. The notable reduction in violent conflicts, that's obvious to all of us. Conflicts in the 70s, 80s, 90s, more than what we have today. Increased peace and stability, but fundamentally prospects for a rising middle class and the youth bulge, which my colleague Julie explained to us on Monday, that in Kenya, those who are below 35 years are up to 75% of the population. Therefore, I think even the world has recognized that Africa is rising because you can see the position of this particular now I wanted, I'm not seeing the other slides. I have a problem, my colleague, Dr. Abel had. I'm in another slide, but I'm not seeing it here. I'm not seeing it. Oh, it's there, sorry. Now, I was now explaining the role of then planning to address the challenges. In Kenya, this is the National Development Planning Framework. Basically, in Kenya, when we got independence, then by around 1965, we developed a plan through a sessional paper. Then subsequently other sessional papers came. Then those ones became the documents, which were used to now prepare development plans for 5 years. Now, in 2007, when we had our last plan on what was called economic recovery, strategy for wealth and employment creation, Kenya developed now a long-term blueprint, which I also looked at most countries here in the room. I'm told you've developed. I saw Uganda, they've got a long-term blueprint, which is something Vision 2040. Below it, we've got now other plans which we now use to mainstream any other continental obligation we may have. It can be, for example, we've got the Sustainable Development Goals adopted by the United Nations. They've been mainstreamed into now our long-term blueprints. I'm sorry that it has gone to another IT. I think we've got a problem, but I can just continue, but there are places perhaps I may need the slide. Perhaps we'll wait if I reach there. Now I'm explaining the plan, the 2050. Again, on the other hand, we've got also spatial plans, which basically there are plans which support the implementation of now the Vision 2030, what we call the flagship projects of this long-term blueprint, and the spatial impacts, the framework of spatial impacts of those projects. Then under it, we've got what we call the medium-term plans now. The Vision 2030 is divided into 5-year plans, which we now call them the medium-term plans, which coincides with our electoral cycle, so that any new government that comes on board, we have the vision. The vision is still this. We have a vision, but the strategies for that vision you developed as a government. Under the MTPs then now, we've got now the sub-nationals also developing their plans through what we call the county integrated development plans. We've got the MDAs, the ministries, departments, agencies also developing their strategic plans. We've got also the sector plans. Below it, therefore, we have also now the annual work plans for each and every agency. Then we have got also the annual budgets, of which we can go further and have now what we call even performance contracting for those agencies to see how they deliver on those particular plans. Now, I've got a challenge because, again, I'm on another slide. I can't see it. But the point is, the slide I'm trying to explain was just talking about snapshot of these MTPs we have in Kenya. They always have some outcomes which they tend to achieve, be it an outcome in terms of accelerated economic growth. For example, Vision 2030 wanted to achieve a growth rate of about 10%, sustained one up to the year 2030. That has not been achieved anyway. But then we've got now the sectors which must then be funded to enable that growth to be achieved. So, for example, in the MTP1, for example, we had a number of sectors supporting that, like manufacturing, ICT, tourism, agriculture, education. In MTP